Hi, my name is Luis Vega. I'm serving as Interim and Associate Dean of Graduate and Undergraduate Studies here at California State University, Bakersfield. The topic today is the Graduate Hidden Curriculum, Maximizing Student Success. And as you can see here, this is a webinar that took place on the 23rd, which was last Friday. Today is Tuesday. I'm retaping this to condense it. I have three goals in mind: that the hidden curriculum helps us to mold the mind, to harden the heart, and intensify intention for success, as well as to do better in life, to do better in our personal life, professional life, and academic life, obviously. So those are the goals that I have for us today. And I put our email here, gsc@csgp.edu, as well as the Graduate Student Center webpage, which you can see here at the bottom. We have other webinars there that you can watch, like imposter syndrome, mental health, and others that you may enjoy watching. So thank you for being here, and let's hit the road. So notice that the hidden curriculum then looks like this face is trying to look for something that is hidden. And notice that I primed you that it's a face, but many of you may have seen that this is the word liar, right? So a lot of times what you see and you don't see can be equally important. And that's why you have with the visible curriculum, which is going to classes. And the invisible curriculum is what you do outside of classes to be successful. So when students came to our webinar, they had to do a little bit of a test, not a test, but to answer a few questions on what they thought they learned in the hidden curriculum, in grad school, what did they learn in grad school, and what are the skills that they didn't get in grad school, as well as the role of academic jargon, and learning about procedures, processes, things that are necessary to succeed in your career in classes, and then to elaborate on things that we know and who we know. So obviously we can go over them, but let's see what some students answer. So you can see then that some of them mention things that you learn, skills that you get in the graduate school: be independent, be accountable, be clear. And then things that you don't learn is being resourceful, being persistent, being able to network. Here's one person that still didn't have a good notion of what it was. Another person said publishing, research, in your field study, but networking, time management, underlying grad policies. So these are some of the things that are outside the classroom, right? So it seems that if you read this, you will immediately be able to infer that, like, if you could put your life 30 years in front of you and then you look back, what are the things that you would do differently, right? How could you maximize your experiences, your academic experience, right? And that's what the academic and the hidden curriculum is. What would you do differently to be more successful? Right? Now, in terms of the academic jargon, right? So when you go to school and you take courses, you're learning new vocabulary. It's like learning another language. And the thing that we often forget is that we get out of school and we keep talking the same way, in technical terms. But it requires that we translate so that we can communicate to lay persons who may offer a job, who will make us more successful. So you even, that's one thing you do in the classroom. You learn the jargon or the language of that topic. And then outside, you have to be able to translate to appropriate to be successful, right? So that's the hidden curriculum. How do you apply the skills outside the classroom? In terms of defining policies and processes and programs, we have to know what our requirements are to get financial aid. I mean, if you don't have money, you cannot pay for your school, right? If you need a license to practice your profession, that's something else that you have to learn. Even being disqualified from your courses if you're not doing well, what grades do you need? So all of these things, typically you don't get in the classroom, and that will be part of the hidden curriculum, right? And then I also put, so it's not just what you know, but also in terms of your credentials, but also who are the people that you know? Have you done internships? Have you, do they know you, right? So a student said, it's not just who you know, but who knows you. So notice that at some level, you already have a notion of what the hidden curriculum is, things that you do outside of class. But here's another test that we just put together in a rush. But I believe when we gave it to the students, not too many people got a 4. So give yourself a point if you answer as follows. Can you get 3 letters of recommendation from professors within a week from your college? If you can get all 3, that means that you have network, you have visited their office hours, you've done things outside of class to know them better. And that will get you a letter of recommendation. So that's a 1 point if you answer 3, okay? Are you working in something related to your degree, right? Which is going to give you experience to get a job easier. So if you say yes, that's 1 point. Are your course assignments thematically developed and organized? Meaning, like if you're an artist, you know, you're building a sculpture, doing a painting, you're not going to finish it in 1 day, right? You keep building on that and it'll take time. So is that how you do, you write your papers too, right? How you take courses to build skills so you become an expert. So if you are focused and directed, and then give yourself a point, you know, if you answer yes. So in making a purchase, what comes to your mind first, a need or a want? So on a weekend, you have the choice to watch you want to watch Netflix, or do you need to do homework to do well in your courses? So if you focus on needs, right, then that's good because you are more likely to know that the hidden curriculum requires a lot of work. If you focus on your wants, it'll give you fun and you may have a good time, but you're not going to progress, right? So it's prioritizing. Again, 1 point. So if you answer 3 letters and you say yes, yes, and need, that would be 4 points. And then it's that, oh, congratulations. I can tell you that I wasn't at that stage when I was a student. But if you are, that's wonderful. Well, part of the reason a lot of times that we don't take advantage of the hidden curriculum is because we reach for the low-hanging fruit, things that are available to us in front of us. And I call this the minimum effort syndrome. So we go to courses, we read the books, we prepare for the exam, we procrastinate. We do just what it takes to get to the courses, right? And so that's just attending the visible curriculum, what you're required to do. And you take the easy way out. And that's not conducive, you know, to being successful. Right? So I asked my daughter one time that we went to Tehachapi. She was 8 years old. We went to get apples. Tehachapi is a town close to Bakersfield. And then I asked her, if you had an apple tree in your house, how would you eat the apples, you know? I just wanted to see how an 8-year-old kid thinks. She said, I'll get back to you. So the next day she gives me this drawing, right? And just walks away. So I chased my daughter and I asked her, what do you mean? You know, I want to understand what you drew here. So she tells me, well, you know, I don't want to be wasteful. So I'm going to pick up all the apples on the floor because, you know, I want to eat those. I don't want those to go to waste. And then after I eat those, I need a tool, you know, I need something to reach because I'm small. I have to reach the low hanging apples and I will bring a stool, right? So which is what she has here. And then she said, but I also know that the sun shines on the apples at the top and that makes them sweet. So I'm gonna need a ladder, but you have to, you know, help me because what if I fall down? And then that's what she said, you know, and it impressed me. I was surprised. I said, my gosh, this girl is really thoughtful. She's methodical. She's thinking about all these things, right? Which I didn't, you know, I would just go and pick an apple and leave, you know, and if I need another apple, I'll go get another one, right? But she actually thought, you know, how she would approach eating apples. So I was very impressed. Obviously, a proud father. But I think a lot of us don't do that when we approach our studies, right? So a lot of times, but notice that even in looking for a job, so if you look at the qualifications of this person, right? This person is looking for a job cleaning cages in a psychology lab. I'm a psychologist, that's why I put this example here. And then the person doesn't have reliable transportation, right? Has a driver license, but you know, access to transportation possible, but not probable. And the person doesn't know how to type, right? Or key punch, but knows how to use computers, right? So obviously if you were to hire this person, you will have some doubts, you know, how good is this person? And then you read more and the person knows technology and electronics and has worked for Hewlett Packard. And long and behold, the name of this person is Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple Computers, right? And he dropped out of college too. So if you're super talented, obviously you don't have to worry about making it in life, right? This person was very talented and believe it or not, he actually got the job cleaning the cages and for rats and pigeons, you know, their droppings. It's not a pleasant job. And he dropped out of college, right? And this was his application for the job. And somebody had it and it sold for $175,000, right? So if you become famous, your belongings will be very expensive. So then, but nonetheless, Steve Jobs made, use of the hidden curriculum, because he was an avid reader. He read a lot, he put into practice everything he did, and he had a passion for technology. So that's what I put here. The hidden curriculum takes the ABCs, which has to do affect, which is your heart, your behavior, your intentions, and your cognitions, right? That's your actions. So I put it in an easy way to remember, 3 Ps, right? You follow your passion, which is the emotion. You practice so you can develop muscle memory. That's your behavior, your intentions. And then you become pensive because you think and you strategize and you come with a plan, right? It starts with a P also. So that's the ABC. But in order to take care of the to take advantage of the hidden curriculum, you have to be able to integrate all these 3. And that's why you see in the next slide that in taking courses, going to the classroom, the students who do well are the ones who think about the theory, do the research, are practitioners, think ethically, are collegial, they're friendly, they're nice to other people, they're curious, they're knowledgeable, critical thinker. So if you can combine the ABC, which is mind, heart, and action, you're going to be able to do better and take advantage of the hidden curriculum. So why is that so important to take advantage of the hidden curriculum? Because we live in a changing world, right? If you think in terms of evolution, in the early days, you were in the savannah and the monkeys walking in 2 legs, right? And you just have to worry about eating, and that's what monkeys do, But then as you develop more, become more sophisticated, which is what Homo sapiens is, Homo erectus, that you walk standing up, right? Homo sapiens, that you're an all-knowing species and you think about stuff. So you think about hunting and, maybe agriculture. And then you think about living in a village. So you have the protection of other people, the support of other people. So that would still be Homo sapiens. So according to Franco, it's just a small article that you can read by going to that link. We are not in an evolution stage anymore. We're in a revolution where memory just comes to us just too much. So this, the information revolution, this is what this is. And I love this because this is a good analogy, right? There is more demand in how we become educated. And sure enough, the US government has recognized that and is putting pressure on educational institutions to be able to prepare students for the labor market, because the jobs of yesterday are disappearing. Even if you're an architect, even if you're a computer person, there's artificial intelligence that can do a lot of the things. Or if you work in fast food, there is going to be robots that can, flip the hamburgers. So we have to be really innovative and look out of the box and take advantage of every possible skill we can develop, right, to succeed. Sometimes the skills come to us even for free. Believe it or not, you can take what they call MOOC courses, more open online courses, with impressive professors from Berkeley, from Harvard, from Princeton. And the sad thing is that even though they're free, only 5% of people complete those courses. Most people don't, right? And they put a lot of money into these courses because it's not just using our mind and digesting courses. I think that's the problem, right? We want to be able to engage, through intention, be passionate about it, not just interested. But on top of that, we also have this information thrown at us, and then there are people trying to make money from us, right? The student loans are just a big problem today, because many people go to these private schools that a lot of times just don't deliver, right? Because they promise easy solutions, and that's not going to do it. But then also there is this trying to, I can even say these words, modularize for specialty. And this is what happens with YouTube. You need something and you go see, and that's what you do. You look for the information. If you need to fix your sink or something breaks down, you go, and that's what they mean by a modular. You go and look for that thing. Or sometimes you have pressure. You do things because if you're a professor and you don't publish, you're going to be fired, right? So that expediency, being counting, of quantifying education, a lot of times misses the point. It's not just quantity but quality, right? And then also time to degree. And I know right now we have pressure to get students out of the university in 4 years, so they don't have as many loans, but also more accountability. How do we help students really learn? And sometimes there are perceptions too, that work against us. So many people have been stereotyped as millennials who don't care about their learning, but that's not the case, right? As you will see later. So then let me break down what follows into, again, the mind, heart, and action, and how we can put this together to take advantage of the hidden curriculum, okay? So I put here, let's go backwards, right, with cognition, or, with the mind. It requires that we be creative in how we approach, right, problems. It's not just because you have to analyze and think out of the box. And a famous what is not famous, but I was very impressed when I read this in Los Angeles, because many of our children who live in poverty don't have access to tutors. But they mentioned how they created these art academies where children would go, minority children, and through art, they were able to get rid of the equity gaps. And what was interesting is that they connected that to how children learn. So when you're a child and your language, you haven't developed the language, no matter if you mispronounce, you keep talking. If you fall down, no matter how many times you keep getting up and you keep doing it. So that's the thing about that. The mind works in ways that you have to put it into practice, right? So there's that kind of integration there. And that appeared to help, right? And it's applying the hidden curriculum. It's not just what you learn in the book, but putting it into practice, right? And you sometimes see criticisms like, oh, this person just knows the book, doesn't know how to do it in practice, right? So, but I want to show you this here, this fellow who is known as the father of modern neuroscience, Santiago Ramon Cajal from Spain. He won the Nobel Prize in 1908 because he show what is called the reticular theory, the brain, the neurons in the brain. At that time was that it's just one neuron that just wraps around the brain, continuous, or is it different neurons that are contiguous next to each other, right? And his theory was that we have a lot of neurons that are next to each other. There are connections where they connect, but it's not just one and the same wrapping around the brain. And well, he was an artist too, right? He was able to do this diagram of the brain, for his theory. So it was not just thinking, but putting it into practice, right? Just like the children were doing art. And that's what I mean by thinking out of the box, right? Now, notice what I put here, no scans use, right? So he was able to picture this. And he's not the only one doing that, combining, the ABCs, right? You also see this fellow here, we talked about Steve Jobs before. So here's Jobs talking on jobs of the future, right? And he mentions how the humanities, it requires that you integrate multiple dimensions of learning to be able to innovate, to take us to the next stage, right? So thinking will now be more important than knowing. So it's not, you see, just knowing something is just knowledge that is static, but thinking is more dynamic, right? And it's more integrating. So even he knew that, right? Now going back to the millennials, right? Notice that we do a disservice by saying that they're putting the expectation that they're not good and that they're lazy, that they only like video games, because we're harming them. That's putting lower expectations on them. And we know that education, you're going to make more money, by getting a higher degree. So if you get a high school less than a high school diploma, look, you make less than 50%, right? So you can always go to the link down here and read the article. So now let me see, we did the mind. So now we'll do intention and behavior. And the university here, California State University, Bakersfield, has an Institute of Ethics, and they invited these young people of color who are working in technology. And I invite you to watch the video. It's an hour and a half, but it's just fascinating because these young people mentioned the navigating a world where there is no diversity and trying to get a job, sometimes going to 100 interviews so that you can get 2 interviews, right? So that's what we mean by being brave, that taking action is going to take effort and grit. You cannot just give up. And these students here, they talked about their experiences working for Google, Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter. So it's fascinating, and we'll spend too much time because just having the bravery to do something, it's difficult and it takes a lot of effort. But that's what it requires to do the hidden curriculum. You have to network, you have to approach professors, you have to speak in class, you have to go and try to get a job that is related to your field, right? All of that intention, that makes it difficult, but it's going to count. So what I put here then, that sometimes taking action is difficult, especially if you're a person who has been stigmatized or stereotyped, or you're one of the few, right? You don't see people like yourself there. So that's what happened in psychology. A lot of people in psychology is very few people of color. And sometimes that could be very intimidating because, society sometimes thinks are not fair. And it doesn't have to be ethnicity, it could be social class. If you're poor, you haven't had the same opportunities, right? And that's what I wanted to give you, that affects your emotions, your emotional state, right? And one of my favorite studies is by Jane Elliott, who out of Iowa in 1960 did a very famous study called the blue eye, brown eye experiment. And it was mostly to show that in society, when there's discrimination, that no matter who you are, you're going to be affected. And it's going to reduce your ability to put into action things that will help you do better. So in that experiment, 1968 in Iowa. She was teaching third graders. And one day she just came because Martin Luther King had just been killed. And a lot of people on television were very disparaging, against African Americans. And that bothered her a lot. Like, who's gonna hold you people together now that your leader has been killed? And she just thought that was wrong, people on television saying that. So she wanted to show her class that you cannot judge other people, until you walk on their shoes, right? So that's what she did. So she shows up to class and tells the students, blue-eyed people are better than brown-eyed people, right? She starts doing this in the morning and just keeps repeating that. Then around noon, gives them a chance to to line up so they can go to lunch. And just automatically, you see a microcosm of society where the students at the front are very happy, right? And the people in the back are not as happy. So you may wonder, if you think about the background I provided you, one group was validated, was told that they were better than the other people. That was the blue-eyed people, right? So you will say, oh, the people in the front must be blue-eyed, right? Because that's why they look all happy. And the people in the back who were discriminated look all depressed, they lost all hope, helplessness. Sure enough, that's what happened. So that's what I meant earlier, that sometimes if you're a person, even though you may have the intention to put all of your efforts, that if no matter how hard you try, you may not make a difference and you give up. And that's the worst thing that we can do to a human being. So that's why it's very important to be able to be brave, right? That's what I mentioned earlier with the students here, right? Having that bravery and grit, not giving up, even if you have to go to 100 interviews, you do it, because that's what it takes to succeed. And it may be harder for some people than other people. So that's what she was able to show. And that's what you're affected emotionally, right? And that's why you need to put all of your energy and passion. So how do we harvest happiness to improve ourselves at the emotional level? So I wanted to show you just one example. There are many examples, and you just have to follow your own passions. So here are students in one of my courses where a senior seminar, I give an assignment of 30 pages, a paper that they have to write 30 pages. And typically most people don't want to take the class because 30 pages, who wants to write 30 pages? But the way we do it, and I don't tell them that it's going to be 30 pages, but I want them to write on the same topic. Remember how I asked earlier, how many of you take courses in a systematic way that you build on it? So that's what they do in this class. They come in and they write 3 papers on something that they really care about. So Karen Jasso, her name, I have permission to use her name. She wrote about absent fathers and a daughter's social development, right? So there is danger that you could do drugs or maybe end up pregnant, all of these dangers if you don't have, a father figure. Right? So she wanted to know how young women emotions are affected and how their mind is affected and their behaviors, right? So she was able to break this down into 3 papers, and you see the first one here, the second one, and the third one. And remember I said 30 pages? She ended up writing 36 pages, right? Because she really cared about this topic. She made it interesting. So you just have to follow your passion, and then there is no stop for you. Here's another student who wrote about children and how is it the parenting styles. Veronica wanted to be a teacher, it's almost a teacher now, but she wanted to know how parents' styles can affect children's responses. And again, she looked how being permissive, authoritarian, and authoritative. And this paper was 40 pages. And again, all I have to do is just figure out a way to evoke their passion, what they care about. And my gosh, you all are so good and you don't even know, right? But you just have to put all of these mechanisms into place, harness your passions, right? Your happiness, what makes you happy. And then you have impressive energy. So now notice something else here then, that in order to do well, you want to put the ABC together. And sure enough, that's what the model that I have used with my students. This is what you see. But I wanted to show you that this hasn't always been easy, because in the old days, there wasn't a university study, right? You could not go to higher education. So maybe you wanted to bake bread. So you go and, the traditional, you practice to make bread and you learn how to make bread through actions. Or then the printing press was invented and we can read. And the benefit of that is that you can pass information from generation to generation, right? And that's good because you don't lose information, but you have to do something with it, right? And not too many people had access to that. Or this one here, temperament. You hear a lot of times in our country, the immigrants, when they came here, it would take 3 generations, right? To be able to go into the higher class. And the reason for that, because you had to work in factories, the coal mines, and it was just like a dead end job. It's not like you're pursuing your passion. You probably were miserable, right? But because of just the people were discriminated, there were no opportunities. So, but if you can integrate all three, you go from novice to expert. And that's what the hidden curriculum can allow you to do. And believe it or not, this is also percolating or going up into the visible curriculum, like courses, right? So professors are under pressure now to apply all of these principles to even in class, right? So it's not just having a talking head that talks to you, or you reading books and remembering and understanding, but also applying the information. So you may have an internship, you may have a lab that you have to analyze and be a critical thinker and then evaluate. That involves emotion. And then creating, which involves behavior, right? Intention. So notice how even in the classroom, we're obligated to use the ABC. That's going to make us better learners, maximize our learning. Here is one example of students I had in the past who engaged in research with me, and then they were able to list the different activities, right? So first, if they want to work with me, they have to learn that class material, right? So that there's no way around it. And then they have to approach me, and talk to me to convince me to get involved in my research. And then they have to understand how to do statistics. They have to apply that by conducting experiments and applying the skills that they have gained. Then they submit that to a conference, and going to the conference is difficult because they have to speak in front of people. They have to put a PowerPoint together. So, but notice all of these things are outside the class. They just take the first class with me here, and then everything else here, they have to approach me. They have to put that into practice. They have to do research, and they don't always do it for a grade. So that's what the hidden curriculum is. So then at the end of the webinar that we had on Friday, we came up with a list of things that can be done to take advantage of this hidden curriculum. So I'll go over this briefly. You can read them and you can always access this. So obviously find willing mentors, people that, and stay away from tormentors. You don't want someone that is going to ask you to just clean the cage, or if you're working with rats, or ask you to enter data, someone that will actually give you more responsibilities, and will take you under their wing. The students that I mentioned before who are working for Google and Facebook and all of that, that's why they mentioned that they found a person who, preferably someone who is like you, who you trust, and they're going to help you to the next level. So avoid tormentors, okay? Be willing and open to mentor others. So be a TA, as a teaching assistant. Go and practice and be a manager, right? Working with people, that kind of forces you out of your comfort zone and to do better. Those who teach are the ones who learn the most. When you teach something, that's when you really learn it. Seek networking opportunities, right? Ask, participate, and engage. It's difficult, to approach other people. So my neighbor tells me his daughter works at a pet store, and the manager says she works in the week crew. I need people for Saturday. That's what the manager said. I need you to be here at 7 in the morning. And no one volunteered, but my neighbor's daughter did. Oh, sir, I will come. So she shows up, and the manager says, you're the new manager because you're the only one who shows initiative and willing to, stick your neck out. So that's what we mean by networking, right? You have to participate and engage. Investigate sources of information, be critical, skeptical, because there is fake news. So make sure that you're an educated person who knows how to process information. You cannot just believe what you're told, right? Then accept failures and risk, because that will lead to innovation and growth. No pain, no gain. So that's what I mentioned about the students who work at Google and Facebook, right? Sometimes you just have to go out of your way and don't give up. You just gotta keep trying, and eventually there's a reward, right? Then integrate, this is what I mean by the Bloom's taxonomy, the pyramid, include all of these elements to focus your mind, your intentions, your passion. Then obviously plant the seeds of success so that you can push yourself to high, because the high hanging fruit yields higher benefits. So the longer you study, so if you want to be work in a lab, why not be the professor who runs the lab? If you were thinking of doing nursing, why not think of being a doctor, right? So set these high expectations, because just like expectations can keep you down, high expectations can elevate you to the next level. And obviously harness happiness and creativity and passion, with other people. Be true to yourself, have self-compassion, treat yourself good, be self-aware, be accountable for your actions. I think, believe it or not, a lot of us don't think of this self-awareness. because you have to contemplate, you have to think, you strategize, not just do things, right? So if you're impulsive, you're going to do bad things, you're going to drink, you're going to spend more money than you have. So that's what we mean by being self-aware and having self-regulation. Be ethical, be a vicarious learner, be self-reflective, be empathetic, be a nice person. So put all of your energy into put the ABC to work for you, and you will succeed. It's something that no one is going to tell you, that you have to find on your own. Be curious, be creative, connect to other people, the 3 C's, and you will do really well. At any rate, it's a pleasure that you came and listened to me. I hope you find this useful. Feel free to send us an email, and do watch the other videos in the graduate student center. Have a great day. Thank you for coming.